Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. This is BlueJeans product highlights. We're going to do a 2019 recap and a 2020 look ahead. My name is Maggie Bliss, and I will be your moderator this morning. Today, I'm joined by Zach Boson, our VP of Product Marketing here at BlueJeans. Before I pass it off to Zach for the presentation, we're going to go over some housekeeping. So today's webinar is on our BlueJeans events product. So all attendees are currently in a one-way viewing experience. If you have any technical issues, please post them into the moderator chat, and we'll do our best to answer those right away. And if you have any questions regarding today's topic, please post them in the Q&A chat feature, also in the right-hand navigation. Lastly, the session will be recorded, and I'll send it out after the presentation. So I'll hand it over to you now, Zach.
Awesome, Maggie. Thanks so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Happy New Year. We're so excited to kick 2020 off. And really highlight some of the great innovation that we tackled in 2019. Let me take you through a really quick agenda for what we're going to cover today. So first and foremost, just want to kind of paint some big picture overviews of the types of things that we accomplished in 2019, give you a sense for some of the big challenges that BlueJeans is aiming at tackling, and then go through some of the innovation highlights and make sure everyone has a really good understanding of all the different areas of the product that were enhanced over the past year. And then finally, we'll get to a bit of a sneak peek for 2020 and do a quick snapshot of what's planned for Q1 from a roadmap standpoint. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So at the end of every year, we like to pull together kind of an aggregate summary of all of the meetings that happen on the BlueJeans Meetings platform and really try to assess it in compared to the last year and try to understand some of the trends that we're seeing across the video conferencing ecosystem. And, you know, these numbers are pretty significant and pretty substantial, but nonetheless, I think it's really important to understand them. So across the BlueJeans Meetings platform last year, we hosted over 5.8 billion meeting minutes, and that was up 28% year over year compared to 2018. And what that really means and what that boils down to is that we hosted over 50 million meetings on the BlueJeans platform last year, which is kind of hard to wrap your arms around. And interestingly, that was up 40% year over year. So perhaps people are having more meetings, but maybe those meetings are getting a little shorter if you just look at the two different growth rates compared to them. But really, when you think about 50 plus million meetings happening across the year, well, there's about 261 different work days in any given year. And so what that means is that we're hosting about 200,000 meetings every single workday on BlueJeans. So just an incredible scale, incredible collaboration that's happening on the platform. Now, interestingly enough, we also track what are the different types of endpoints and devices that are joining our meetings. And I found this one particularly fascinating, which is that we had over 22 million meetings joined by conference rooms and endpoints. And that was up 50% compared to the 2018 number. And to me, that one really resonates. I think if you're focused on the industry press and the analyst coverage, what you'll see is kind of this explosion of huddle spaces and these new huddle rooms that are coming online to compete with these open floor plans, right? It's hard to actually have productive meetings in an open floor plan setting when you're doing it from your desktop. And so people are jumping into conference rooms, jumping into huddle spaces. And I think this is an interesting data point because it proves that people are looking to use endpoints in rooms to join meetings, and people are doing that more frequently, which I think reinforces how important it is that your room systems are easy to use so that anyone can jump into a room with the touch of a button, join a meeting. So kind of some interesting data points to look at the scale and scope and all the different types of meetings that BlueJeans is touching. Now, for those of you that are interested in kind of like, well, what does that mean from an ROI standpoint, perhaps? And if you've played around in Command Center, you've seen some of the different ROI calculations that we have in Command Center to give you some perspective on the impact that your organization is having by using BlueJeans. And one of the things that we highlight are some of the calculations around sustainability. And one of the ways we do that is we actually track if you're joining a meeting from Europe and someone else is joining a meeting from the United States, we actually look at the distance covered between those two locations. And then we add that up to give you a sense of, you know, if those individuals were meeting face to face, how much of a distance are you eliminating from a travel standpoint by simply having a virtual meeting? Right? It's pretty straightforward. But if you aggregate up all those 50 million plus meetings from last year, and you look at all of the miles of travel that we offset by hosting those meetings on BlueJeans, that's 135 billion miles of travel that were omitted simply by using the BlueJeans Meetings platform. And when you try to understand, well, what's the implication of that? Well, that adds to about 24.68 million metric tons of CO2 emissions, simply thinking about it in terms of the plane transport and kind of the gas that's required and the jet fuel that's required for those flights. And then one other conversion of that data that makes it a little bit more tangible, I think, is that's about 2.8 gallons of gasoline consumed that were offset by hosting your meetings on BlueJeans. And that's a little bit over 4 million different homes electricity use for 1 year, simply by having BlueJeans in place and enabling people to connect from wherever they are without having to jump on a plane to meet face to face. And, to me, this is a really exciting aspect of what we're doing in general in the video conferencing industry and how we're enabling people to work from wherever they want, but also some of the implications from a sustainability standpoint by enabling this type of utilization of the platform. So, to me, it's really exciting to see just the breadth and the number of meetings that we're touching from BlueJeans, but also really what the implications are downstream and kind of what we're offsetting by using video conferencing. So from a high level, I think those are some interesting data points. And then just to give you kind of a snapshot of some of the awards that we received from the analyst, media, and customer community, just a really nice cross-section, from Gartner and from the Unified Communications Publication, Aragon Research, G2 Crowd. And we're just so honored to receive these awards. And it really kind of propels us and motivates us and drives us to want to keep on delivering on behalf of our customers. So really kind of a flagship year. But, one of the things we wanted to do is take a step back and say, okay, so obviously meeting volume has grown tremendously. What's going on here? Are people just flipping on their camera and they're becoming more comfortable using video conferencing? Or are there some other trends that we really need to understand as some of the significant drivers that are propelling our business forward? And that's really what we wanted to do here on this next slide, which was take a step back and, let's see, is my slide advancing? Oh, there it is. And this is some research that we published in the early October timeframe, along with our Smart Meetings product introduction. And what we did across 700 different managers and end users is we tried to understand what are the demographics of meetings, right? How many meetings are people having a week? Are those good meetings? Are those bad meetings? What are some of the cultural aspects that are impacting an organization's overall meeting performance? And number one, what we found is that on average, workers are spending about 31% of their work week in meetings. So no doubt there is a substantial amount of time every week that managers and workers, just regular individual contributors, are sitting in meetings. And when you think about the overall allocation of their time, that's a pretty significant portion. And you'd hope that 31% was really filled with high value meetings with collaboration and productivity, decision making. And maybe unsurprisingly, when we tried to understand, well, okay, in those meetings, do you feel like your organization has a really strong meeting culture where you're establishing agendas, you've got the right decision makers in the room, you're answering, hard problems, and you're coming away with discrete action items and clear next steps? And honestly, this was surprising that 74% of organizations rate their meeting culture as neutral or bad. So overall, people are just not very optimistic that their organization has implemented the right philosophy and the right roadmap around how to have successful meetings. And when you kind of peel that onion back a little bit, what you'll see are a couple interesting things. Number one is that 57% of individual contributors and managers admit, hey, that very frequently I'm double or triple booked. And when you're double or triple booked that often, you obviously are missing specific meetings, creating follow-up meetings, and the next thing you know, your calendar is just overloaded with meetings. And I think that's one of the key things that's happening. Now, another interesting aspect of that meeting overload is that people aren't able to get all their work done during the workday. They actually have to do nighttime and weekend work. And that's what that 52% data point means there on the bottom of the page, which is that the majority of our survey respondents believe that the packed meeting agenda they have every day drives them to have to work on nights and weekends. And then looking at it from a slightly different perspective, we asked, well, what about those meetings that you do have, right? Are people engaged? Do you have the right folks in the room who are active participants and contributing to the conversation? And what the survey respondents told us is that 48% of the people that attend meetings are just there for a fear of missing out. So they're not even active participants. They're only there either to be counted among one of the attendees or in case an action item is thrown their way. So obviously, we have a lot of work to do around meetings, and we believe that that's one of the key things in terms of why people are turning to the BlueJeans Meetings platform, is to help them create a better meeting culture, to have more productive meetings. Because when you look over on the right side of the screen, we started to quantify what the impact was of this negative meeting culture. And so when you think about that 31% of time that meetings are happening during a work week for a worker, well, what percentage of those meetings are great meetings? What percentage of those meetings are worthless meetings? Well, what we found is right there. 34% of the meetings that folks are sitting in are a complete waste of time. Low value, no value, worthless meetings. And when you aggregate the amount of time in any given work week dedicated to those low value meetings, what it adds up to is 26 work days a year for each individual employee just lost to bad meetings. And when you look at the salary time that's attributed to those 26 work days across the global population, you've got over $400 billion wasted annually just on bad meetings. And so we believe that there's a real pain point here around the quality of meetings, the allocation of resources, and how to have just more productive meetings to get more work done. Everyone wants to have a better meeting experience, but there's real questions as to how to make that happen. And we think that, one of the major drivers that we're seeing such tremendous growth across the BlueJeans meeting platform is that we're really helping organizations be more productive, to change the meeting culture across their organization. And they're using our full suite of tools to do that. And so today what I'd really want to walk through from a 2019 perspective, a look back perspective, is all the great innovation that we unleashed to help organizations have more productive meetings across our core video conferencing solution, BlueJeans Meetings, thinking about the in-room experience, whether that's with our flagship Dolby Voice Room units or some other innovations we've made across the BlueJeans Rooms franchise, and also looking at our all-hands solution, BlueJeans Events. And of course, the unifying factor across all those products is Command Center, which is our single pane of glass dashboard. And so I'll also highlight some of the new analytics and visualizations that we've put into play to help administrators understand what's going on across their environment. And I think that you'll see the common thread across meetings, rooms, events, Command Center is really that, across the entire platform, we aspire to be the most simple, easiest to use, consumer-grade experience that's intuitive and allows you to get right into your meeting without any complexity. We want to deliver the most intelligent capabilities, and you'll see that with smart meetings and really changing the conversation around meeting productivity. And ultimately to be the most trusted platform that you can experience from a security, a performance, a quality standpoint. And those are the different elements that we bring together across the platform, and those are the core areas where we've driven innovation over the last year and where we're going to continue to drive innovation going forward. So let's dive right in and start focusing around BlueJeans Meetings. So as you can imagine, there is a number of different features that we introduced over 2019. And so I had to do a bit of a cherry picking exercise or else we just wouldn't have time to cover everything. And so what really bubbled to the top for me were the different innovations that have the opportunity for maximum impact. And that's why I identified smart meetings, mobile experience, and collaboration experience to go into a little bit more depth. Smart meetings really is rethinking the different tools that workers need to be productive in meetings, or the different tools that workers need if they don't even have the opportunity to attend meetings. And so we'll do a deep dive there. The mobile experience is becoming more and more important. As remote work, as workers on the go, as frontline workers, really become a core part of the overall enterprise experience. You shouldn't have to have a second-rate video conferencing experience on your mobile device that's different from your desktop experience or your in-room experience. As a matter of fact, the mobile experience needs to be very high performant because of all the challenges you have in terms of the network conditions. So we've made some really powerful improvements there. And overall, people are joining video conferences, people are joining meetings to collaborate. And so we want to make sure that we're enriching that collaboration tool set so it's as effective as possible. So we'll dive into smart meetings first. So when you think about our work around smart meetings, and hopefully many of you are exposed to what we've done around smart meetings during our big product launch in early October, but it really ties back to much of the research that we discussed a couple slides ago. The fact that 34% of meetings are no value or low value, and the fact that many times individuals are overbooked and they can't attend every meeting. And so one of the key challenges that workers have with meetings is that the conversation is fluid, it's creative, it's dynamic. If you're engaged in a really powerful meeting, then you feel like it's a lightning bolt moment. Anything can happen and you're moving the ball forward, you're making decisions. But if you're not actively taking notes, if you haven't designated a scribe, if you don't have a mechanism for capturing those insights, then they're fleeting, they're ephemeral, as we call them. And so one of the key things, before you can actually transform meeting productivity, you have to have a way to be able to take something that's fleeting and make it tangible. And that's really kind of the core first element of smart meetings. It's having the ability to capture and contextualize meeting highlights. And so for those of you that aren't familiar with meeting highlights, we've introduced a new button within the video conferencing experience. You can see it here on the screen. It's the little star button on the left side of the screen. And what anyone can do, whether it's the owner of the meeting or it's any participant, is they can simply click on that star. And what will happen is 20 seconds before that moment and 20 seconds after that moment will be captured as a highlight. It will also present the opportunity for the person who tagged the highlight, as well as anyone else in the meeting, to crowdsource commentary to provide context around that very specific moment. And so if there's a great point that's mentioned and someone's like, that's an awesome idea, we should revisit that in the future, you can tag the highlight. It'll be populated in the right side meeting highlight bar. You can add comments to it. People can upvote it and like it. And it retains its value in perpetuity. And there's long-term value to that individual moment. And so what's really critical about that is that even if you have a meeting and it's maybe two people that are having a very passionate dialogue and you have some folks that are bystanders on the side, well, they can even add to that conversation. They don't have to interrupt or interject. They can actually have a whole separate side conversation within the context of that highlight and revisit it at a later date. So from the get-go, establishing a new highlights workflow that retains those lightning in a bottle moments is super powerful. And then those moments can be repurposed and leveraged when you're creating work product later on. Now, furthermore, let's say that that moment that was captured requires some kind of follow-up action, right? So you can tag it as an action item. You can tag it as a decision that was made that maybe needs to be revisited or shared with other stakeholders. Or you can simply tag it as we're moving on to a new topic in case someone's reviewing that meeting and they want to find a very specific item that was discussed. They can use it as breadcrumbs. So the ability to tag those highlights is incredibly powerful, and it's a whole new mechanism and framework for establishing accountability. I'm not sure about everyone out there, but I'm in a lot of different types of meetings where sometimes there's a scribe taking action items, sometimes you're individually responsible for taking those action items. It happens in a lot of different formats. Sometimes action items are just thrown out of left field and no one follows up on them. And that's a real hindrance to productivity within the organization. And so you can imagine a new world with smart meetings with action items where you're tagging all of those discrete actions. You receive an automated follow-up email after the meeting. And then as you're preparing for the next meeting, you already have your checklist that you're going to go through in terms of follow-up and progress made on those items. So this is all baked within the core BlueJeans meetings experience now to drive that overall meeting productivity and follow through. We call it the say-do ratio. So if you say you're going to do something in the meeting, can we have some steps now to ensure that it gets done in the appropriate amount of time? And then over on the right side of the screen, this is something that people have really fallen in love with. It's our binge-ready recaps, or you can think about it as ESPN SportsCenter highlights, right? And so all of those highlights that were tagged throughout the meeting, we then take those and create a meeting highlight reel. So if you weren't able to make a meeting, maybe you're a manager and you're triple booked, but you're curious what happened in that one meeting, you can simply go to the meeting hub page for that meeting, click autoplay highlights, and create a instant summary of the most critical moments of that meeting without having to comb through all 60 minutes of it and boil it down to its most relevant 10 minutes. Simultaneously, you can also look at all of the comments and highlights and tags over on the right side of the screen to understand what actions were identified, what decisions were made, what new topics were covered, and just a really powerful way to get the gist, to get the flow of the meeting without having to sit through a recording. Because we know that people really aren't that fond of sitting through meeting recordings. We see that in the data. So, this is really just the tip of the iceberg for BlueJeans. We believe there is so much more we can do with this technology to help organizations and help individual contributors not only have successful in-meeting experiences, but also when you think about preparing for meetings, the post-follow-up workflow, and really connecting the dots on the life cycle of meeting productivity, that's really where BlueJeans wants to help our customers and really drive a lot of value across that ecosystem. So if you can't tell, I'm super excited, also super passionate about this direction that we're taking, and we think there's a huge innovation opportunity here. So the second key area that I wanted to talk about was the mobile experience. And I alluded to we're seeing this significant upward trend in number of mobile devices that are joining BlueJeans meetings, and that makes sense. And we've seen tremendous progress in terms of frontline workers and retail organizations or fleet managers, anyone who's doing maintenance out in the field. All these people are connected using video conferencing because what they want to share back with headquarters, or what they want to share back with their other regional and branch offices is what's happening in real time. And so what's really critical for these folks that are on the go, you can think about when you're joining a meeting, maybe you're typically doing it from an airport or a train station or somehow on your commute, right? Typically, you can't control for the network conditions because you're on the go, but also there's always a ton of background noise. And so one of the things we knew we had to do in 2019 was take our flagship Dolby Voice integration that we have with the desktop experience and bake that into our iOS and our Android mobile apps. And so that was the first thing that we were able to check off the box so that you can take advantage of that world-class noise reduction, that HD quality audio, the incredible spatial audio that you get with Dolby Voice, and all of the really rich, crystal clear sound capabilities that you get. So now that's in the mobile app, and that's made a tremendous difference when people are in busy, high traffic areas, and it really helps with the folks that aren't, they're on the other side of the meeting, right? That are sitting in a conference room, and it blocks out all that background noise. So once again, really driving meeting productivity because everyone can engage in a really crystal clear two-way conversation. Second, and this is a pretty cool feature, we call it commute mode. And so, one of the things that the product team identified is that mobile is heavily used, significantly used during commuting hours, right? From 7 to 9 a.m., from 4 to 6 p.m. We see a significant uptick in people joining meetings using their mobile devices. And that makes sense, right? The workday's either starting, the workday's not quite done yet, people need to drop off their kids, they're on the go. But what we also found is that driving with a video conference happening is not necessarily the safest thing to do, or even having PowerPoint slides, progressing forward on your mobile device is not necessarily the safest thing to do while you're driving. And so we've created some new options that allow you to simply connect to commute mode, which will minimize and shut off your content feed and your video feed and really just populate with a large mute button and focus only on the audio experience. So it just populates there on your mobile device on Android and iOS. And it's really easy simply to connect to that commute mode. And then if you jump out of the car, pop into a Starbucks or something, you want to flip back over to the regular content share, your fully featured mode, it's with the click of a button. So, going forward, we're looking at using the accelerometer and coming up with some really interesting, creative ways to automatically flip through those modes. But I think just as table stakes, having those options that are more safe for those that are in transit is definitely advantageous. Another really interesting thing is around PSTN optimization and what we've done to bring together the PSTN experience from your mobile device as well as the content sharing aspects. I think what we recognize is that when you're using the mobile device, it's hard to necessarily know if you're driving through maybe some backcountry areas where you're going to have a good signal, where you're not going to have a good signal. Maybe you're taking a train ride and the signal's fluctuating. So it might be necessary, instead of using the app audio, to flip over to PSTN audio. But you might not always know when the best time to do that, or as a user may not be as comfortable toggling between the two. And so we've created notifications that allow you to do that easily, but also bring the experience together seamlessly. Some really significant improvements there that the end users may or may not even notice, but it makes the overall video conferencing experience when you're on the go much more productive. And then fourth is the mobile screen share. So I was talking about those frontline workers or those fleet managers, people who are in the field. They often are taking videos or taking pictures when they're on the go, and they want to be able to share that content back to people that are in HQ or other folks dispersed wherever they may be. And so now we have the ability, both in Android and iOS, to share not only your video feed, but also to share other content, whether that's videos or pictures, to really create that rich interactive experience and make sure that people are able to have the right types of meetings, regardless if they're tied to their desktop or if they're on the go or in the conference room. So a really rich set of features that we think take that mobile experience and bring it to the next level. And then I also wanted to highlight that at the tail end of the year, we introduced a press release with BlueJeans, Samsung, and Verizon, and really highlighting the power of the 5G network with Verizon and some of the really cool innovative things on next generation Samsung devices using BlueJeans video conferencing. Video is just a significant, really powerful use case on 5G networks, and so we've partnered with Samsung and Verizon to bring out some really cool capabilities and really enabling the developer community to build on top of the BlueJeans and Samsung and Verizon platforms to come up with incredible new and great ideas. And so I'd encourage those of you that are interested in that news to check out the press release, and we're going to continue to forge ahead with those partners and do some really amazing things in terms of the overall kind of transformational impact that 5G will have. So super excited about a bunch of these mobile enhancements, and we're seeing a lot of them already have a big impact for our customers. And then to round out our section on BlueJeans meetings, collaboration. Collaboration is why people are having video conferences in the first place, right? They're trying to get together, they're trying to make decisions, they're trying to teach each other, they're trying to have a dynamic experience, they're trying to have a productive meeting. And one of the areas that we see, people really adopting video conferencing for is around training and enablement, whether that's new hire training, whether that's compliance training, whether that's product training and sales enablement. And many times you're bringing together relatively large groups of individuals. And sure, it's powerful to have people presenting content to those large groups, but to really make that content stick, you want to be able to take those large groups and chunk them out into smaller breakout sessions, allow people to really interact with the content, talk to each other, and engage. And for that very reason, we introduced breakout sessions where meeting moderators can now break out up to 20 different small groups. You can either purposefully assign individuals to specific groups, or you can randomly assign them to groups and let them fall where they may. Moderators can bounce around, or trainers can bounce around from breakout to breakout to see how things are going. And then when the time is right, they can bring everyone back into the big room group. So it's really easy to use, sitting right there in the BlueJeans app tray, really powerful for different types of training or even brainstorming sessions, right? We think there's a whole lot of utility for this type of feature, especially in a world where workers are dispersed across the globe. So super powerful in terms of just driving, more intimate conversations with those smaller groups. Now, another feature that we introduced is around upload and share video. And so we really have two different mechanisms for sharing videos. One is sharing videos on the fly, so you can simply open up YouTube and share a video. And that's pretty powerful, but we do know that sometimes based on bandwidth conditions, network conditions, you could have some video hiccups. The performance might not be quite as great as you want depending on what the different use case is. So we created a second option, which is giving you the ability to take your video video, upload it to the BlueJeans cloud, and then stream it down so it has a very high-performant, high-quality experience. And so you can think about marketers, for example, who are working with agencies, like they want to be able to watch those videos and be able to have a discussion in real time. So many different use cases for bringing video into your meetings in terms of getting people engaged. So we're excited to offer these different options, and we're already starting to see people just upload a ton of videos to drive their meetings forward. And then the third collaboration feature that I'll highlight, and this came out earlier in the year, but this is the ability to pause your screen share. And so some of you may remember this feature from the previous version of the BlueJeans app, but really it gives you an opportunity. Imagine if you are presenting in a sales conversation, you're presenting some content, you're getting kind of some chat things popping up about the conversation that's happening, but you don't want to share that conversation with what you're sharing on the screen. You can pause the screen share, keep the slide up, deal with an email or chat or finding other content, whatever is creating kind of that background chatter. But the other participants that are engaged in the meeting, they won't see that, right? Because they're just going to be focused on the screen that you have up. So really simple feature to use, but it has some pretty significant impacts depending on the nature of the conversation you're having. And whenever you're sharing content right there up at the top of the screen, it'll say sharing content, and would you like to pause your screen share? Click on the button. You do it, and then you bring it back to resume the screen share. Very easy, but it really helps you keep that momentum going without any disruption to the meeting. So just some great features to enhance collaboration and make sure that you and your teams are getting the most out of the BlueJeans Meetings platform. So as I said, there was a lot to cover with meetings. I had to kind of figure out some of the more impactful buckets, but hopefully these three are valuable, and these are some tools that you all will be able to bring to your organizations. So let's pop over and talk a little bit about BlueJeans Rooms. Got two slides here, and hopefully most of you out there are familiar with kind of our flagship room system kit. This is the Dolby Voice Room, and in the fall we introduced kind of an extension of the Dolby Voice Room. We brought to life the Dolby Voice Room Pro, and really the key difference between these two room systems is the new Dolby Voice Room Pro comes with an ultra-modern PTZ camera for a really large room configuration. So the Dolby Voice Room regular configuration comes with a great 4K camera. It's what I'm using right now actually in this room, and it does all the incredible intelligent scene framing in whiteboard mode, and it's great for kind of small and medium-sized rooms. The Dolby Voice Room Pro, on the other hand, is really designed for those larger boardrooms, larger conference rooms, even bring them into training rooms, and so it really gives our customers the ability to now have consistency using the Dolby Conference Phone as their controller across their entire room estate, but now they're able to configure with different cameras, and this is a Dolby-specific camera, so it gives you those great options like intelligent scene framing and whiteboard mode right out of the box. So really great to actually extend now the Dolby Voice Room experience to those large rooms. Now, another critical innovation that we brought to life here at the second half of 2019 was BlueJeans multi-service. And I think, if you're paying attention to industry news, you'll see that, one of the big ticket items that everyone was talking about in the fall was really focused around this kind of cross-service interoperability. And we agree. We know that our customers are not only doing BlueJeans meetings. We know that internally, probably the majority of their collaboration is happening over BlueJeans. But what about working with partners, working with agencies, working with vendors, right? The reality is there's a bunch of different services out there. And so we've introduced a new BlueJeans multi-service mode, which works with the Dolby Voice Room and the Dolby Voice Room Pro, as well as standards-based BlueJeans rooms, so Cisco, Poly, Life-Size, where we now have the ability to parse the invitations from Microsoft Teams meetings, Cisco WebEx meetings, Zoom meetings, introduce them all in your single one-touch join calendar flow. And if you have the appropriate room connectors, you'll be able to join those meetings regardless of service simply through the touchscreen interface. So for Microsoft Teams meetings, to be able to join those meetings, we obviously offer the BlueJeans Gateway for Microsoft Teams, our cloud video interop solution. If your organization is interested in being able to join Cisco WebEx meetings and Zoom meetings, you need the appropriate connectors, or the host of the meeting needs the appropriate room connectors for those. But nonetheless, they all populate on the same calendar and provide that consistent experience that we know that our end users expect and appreciate, instead of saying, oh, I got to go to the Cisco room, or I got to go to the BlueJeans room, or I got to go over here for some other room. You can do that all from the same user interface and have a great experience regardless of what service you're using. And then third is around custom backgrounds in digital signage. And, one of the things that I've been super interested in over the past year or two is we've got this massive proliferation of screens across the enterprise. But oftentimes those screens may be sitting blank, but it's a great opportunity to use those screens to broadcast information. And so now we've enabled the ability to use your BlueJeans Rooms background screens to do a host of different things. You can host up to 100 different custom wallpaper designs, so you can use that to broadcast when the next all hands meeting is coming up. If you have kind of support questions, you can include the email or the Slack channel or what have you to contact support or any other questions. And it's super easy to update per room. And we're starting to see organizations use the custom backgrounds to not only communicate their brand, which I think everyone wants to see, but also other types of information across the organization. So I'd say that I think this is a great way to start using your BlueJeans Room to explore digital signage and use it for more than just being able to join a BlueJeans meeting. So one other critical introduction that we made in 2019 was around this idea of device as a service. And maybe you've heard it, BlueJeans Rooms as a Service, or we call it RAS for short around here. And really, this is an all-inclusive room system subscription for the Dolby Voice Room and the Dolby Voice Room Pro, which brings together the hardware components as well as the BlueJeans Room software components, the warranty and support, all-inclusive for one single price. So there you've got the Dolby Voice Room price and the Dolby Voice Room Pro price, and you get these subscriptions annually or every 2 years, 3-year contracts. It's very flexible, very customizable. It scales on demand. You don't have to go through many of the long cycle procurement processes or the capital expenditure processes that historically you've had to go through to purchase room system hardware. It's OpEx, not CapEx. We see a lot of our customers who are just trying to outfit 1 or 2 huddle spaces going in to do RAS. They get it in there. People love it. They expand upward. So it's funny. We've got, a bunch of our customers now who are exploring the Dolby Voice Room. And then we've got some that are going all in 200, 300, 400 rooms. So this gives you the opportunity to try it out, give it a shot, and really kind of explore it. But we think that the economics are great when you look at kind of the total cost of ownership, having everything all inclusive. Everything comes from BlueJeans, so the hardware, the software. We provide the support and the warranty. And additionally, if you have any issues with it, that's covered for hardware replacement, advanced hardware returns, firmware and software updates. So just a lot comes from a value standpoint with the rooms as a service model. And, BlueJeans now, we feel like us and some other vendors led the way here, but you're seeing like the market begin to transform as a new kind of option that many organizations are taking advantage of. So if you're interested in it, I would definitely encourage you to check out more details on the website or engage with your customer success manager or sales rep, because we're starting to see a lot of traction with this new business model. Cool. So now I'd like to flip over to BlueJeans Events. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, that's the platform we're actually using right now to conduct this webinar. And, from a use case standpoint, we see really all hands and town hall meetings, internal meetings, as being a very significant driver for the adoption of BlueJeans Events, but it's also very powerful in webinar formats like this today. So it really spans the board on any of those large scale types of communications and broadcasts that you're hosting. So 2019 innovation highlights, we put out a big press release in the middle of the year. And, one of the things that we brought to the events platform, it's the same that we brought to the mobile solutions that I earlier mentioned, which is Dolby Voice. When you think about an all-hands meeting, for example, especially for a global organization, you may have executives across the globe, and they may be traveling. You never know what exact conditions they're going to be in, but certainly you want them to put on a professional presentation, and you want to make sure that they're able to communicate with the organization. You don't want them to be hampered just because they're traveling to a place that may have a lot of background noise or the quality isn't great. So having Dolby Voice embedded in the events platform was mission critical. Second, we realized that because the nature of many of these events are happening from a multinational perspective, we needed to partner with an organization to offer real-time translation. So we have a partnership with an organization called Interprify, and Interprify integrates with BlueJeans Events. They have a panel of translators that will plug into an event, will open up an audio stream, and they can pipe the translation back into the BlueJeans event so that individual participants can hear a natural language translation while they're watching the actual content for BlueJeans events. So really powerful in those events where you want to make sure that you're covering the bases from a language perspective. Additionally, we've been able to now create embeddable video using HTML5 for the event stream. So if you think about, an all-hands meeting or a training event or something like that, and you want to drop that right on a sales portal or a corporate intranet, you now have the ability to do that with BlueJeans events. So really kind of exposing the event in many different ways, not just through kind of like one single web page. From a management and administrative standpoint, we've introduced two-factor authentication with events, which is really critical when you think about all-hands meetings or town hall meetings where you're talking about sensitive topics. You can think about a merger and acquisition, reduction in force, any of those types of things where organizations need to come together and have a really honest conversation with their employees. Well, you want to make sure that only the right types of people, the right employees are getting into those meetings, and two-factor authentication helps with that. Engagement analytics is, I think, is a really cool new algorithm that we've built to help meeting hosts and presenters understand, were people paying attention? Were they participating with some of the engagement features? Was the top window on the screen? And we bring that together and we provide a score, an engagement score across the different participants. So, presenters can figure out, like, did this meet the mark, or do I need to start tweaking my content? So just another great piece of feedback that we can provide to meeting hosts and event hosts about the quality of their event. And then additionally, we introduced some new peer-to-peer networking capabilities. So obviously, if you're hosting massive all-hands and town hall events, there is the potential to have a tax on the bandwidth if everyone's pulling down their own event stream. And so peer-to-peer lightens that load. We also offer BlueJeans Accelerator, which is a streaming, a caching engine to also help with bandwidth management for those all-hands and town hall events. But peer-to-peer, just another option to help ensure that you have flawless events. So on the right side, just wanted to highlight that we tried to take a snapshot here of some of the data points in terms of events. So notice the scale is a little bit lower than what we had with BlueJeans meetings. But that being said, about 15,700 total events happened on BlueJeans events with about 1.6 million attendees. And that's about 26,000 event hours. But on average, about 50 events per day are happening on BlueJeans events. And those are all different types of webinars and town hall and all hands and training meetings. We see such a wide breadth, but it's really kind of the interactivity and the ability to connect with wide audiences is what's really driving so much satisfaction for our customers here. And I love this data point. This is a survey that we ran with Tech Validate across our customer base, and we asked them, comparatively, right, are you a fan of BlueJeans events? And 95% agreed that BlueJeans events delivers a higher quality experience than other all-hands platforms. And, we tried to understand, well, what does that mean, right? Like, why is that the case? And it's because they're seeing more employee participation in all-hands events. You're seeing just an overall increase of the quality, better employee retention of information. So many different benefits are coming to those organizations that have adopted this solution and really using it to drive executive communications top down and not making everyone feel like they're just being lectured to, but participating in those conversations. So excited to keep banging the drum here around events. We kind of feel like this might be like our best kept secret, but we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to use BlueJeans events for their all hands, town hall, and webinar experiences. So one kind of final slide here around some highlights from 2019 that I wanted to focus on. And this is really across Command Center, our administrative console. And we've added a lot to Command Center over the past year. I just wanted to pull out a couple of the new visualizations and some of the new analytics that we think are going to be particularly helpful, as well as a little bit on the administrative side. So number one, if you're new to Command Center or if you have a new hire who's going to be the administrator, one of the things that we wanted to introduce right out of the gate was just some walkthroughs, some hand-holding. There's so much data within Command Center that it can be overwhelming if it's your first time using the tool. And so now, regardless of what the specific problem is, we've kind of tried to genericize some specific workflows and give you a step-by-step guide on how to look for what you may think be a pain point. And so just some great walkthroughs to use to kind of get familiarized with the tool. Number two is some new dashboards around user feedback. So historically, we would collect user feedback after each BlueJeans meeting, and we'd aggregate that into an overall quality score. But sometimes you'd want to understand from a more granular level, well, for those meetings that aren't going well, is it a specific endpoint? Is there a specific region that's in trouble? How do I understand kind of in broad-based terms, like where are choke points and how can I be more proactive about creating resolution? So we've created some new capabilities here to take that user feedback data and dive 1 degree deeper and use the visualizations to help you get there. Moving to the middle of the slide, smart meetings adoption. So one of the things we know to be true is that we're asking people to change their behavior, to modify their in-meeting behavior, to start tagging highlights, to providing context around those highlights, assigning action items, following up on those action items, building in that cadence into their preparation. And so one of the things that we wanted to help our administrators with is, we believe it's powerful. We've got a lot of great feedback that it can be a real needle mover, but it's going to require some change management. And so we've provided a set of dashboards and some tools and some analytics as to how is smart meetings progressing within your organization. So tracking how many smart meetings, folks are engaging with, the number of highlights. And there's a lot of rich detail here, but I just wanted to highlight that we understand there's going to be some change management required, and we've built the tools to help you gauge performance and set some goals around what you'd like to see from a smart meetings adoption standpoint. PSTN utilization, this is a big one when it comes to cost cutting. So, one of the areas where customers continuously look for guidance for us is like, hey, I've got specific cost thresholds I'm really trying to get under, and PSTN is one of those areas where we're spending a tremendous amount, and we'd like to mitigate that. And we believe that, using Dolby Voice, our VoIP solution, is a great way to have a meeting. You don't always have to dial in, but we need to create more awareness around that. We want to do a better job of highlighting what PSTN you are using to join meetings. So we've created a new widget here that will help you track PSTN utilization. So as you put into effect PSTN mitigation plans and try to pivot more people to VoIP, you'll have a better way of tracking that right within Command Center. And then over on the right side of the screen, so, BlueJeans has always enabled organizations to brand and customize and make BlueJeans their own, but often that requires some back-end work from our support team. And what we wanted to do is democratize that, give all of our administrators out there the ability to take their logo, take their colors, make BlueJeans theirs. We understand that it's your video conferencing tool, and you are going to be able to create much more adoption if you have that ownership and that experience that makes it feel like it's your company's tool. So now within the admin console, there's a whole set around branding that allows you to easily drag and drop your logo, your colors, your images, and make BlueJeans your own. And so that's something that's self-service now, whereas previously it took time and support resources from BlueJeans. So we're excited to empower you with those new capabilities, and hopefully that will help drive more adoption of the BlueJeans platform. So as I mentioned, I know this is a bit of a fire hose, and I didn't have the opportunity to cover everything I wanted across the platform. So didn't have a chance really to cover off on our gateway for Microsoft Teams, new enhancements to G Suite and Google Calendar integration, our new desktop app for Linux, all of the integrations we have presented through the BlueJeans app network, some of the tremendous improvements we've made around accessibility, and the introduction of our brand new e-commerce shopping experience. But if you're interested in having conversations around these topics, please get in touch with your account manager, your customer success manager, or BlueJeans sales, and we can deep dive on any of the topics that we previously discussed or any of these other items which we just simply didn't have time for today. And now, I think probably for some of the information a lot of you have been waiting for, but I wanted to really, before I dive into the sneak peek at Q1, I really wanted to highlight all of the great work that the team did in 2019. I think that there's a tremendous amount of innovation across meetings, rooms, events, Command Center that the team delivered, and I think we're going to continue to build on that in 2020 to make sure that we continue to deliver the world's leading video conferencing platform. And I just wanted to provide here a quick snapshot of some of the different capabilities and some of the different themes and focus areas of where we're investing in Q1. Obviously, there's a lot more across all of 2020, and we'll have plenty of time to dive into that. But just wanted to set some expectations. we are all about video conferencing. We're all about the meeting experience, and we want our customers to have the highest grade quality and performance experience using the BlueJeans video conferencing platform. And so we understand that network conditions are tricky. And so one of the things we're working on is something internally we're calling K2 audio resiliency, but where you can be confident is that we recognize the importance of the audio feed and making sure that even if the network can't tolerate video, that audio persists and that people are able to have an effective conversation regardless of those network conditions. So we've made some really interesting architectural changes in the background that will promote better audio experience, both on the desktop and in the mobile experience, and those will be coming out. We've already actually introduced them for the desktop, and they'll be coming out for mobile here in Q1. But in addition to that, we want to help end users understand if their video conferencing experience is getting choppy or it's getting robotic or they're having some symptoms of kind of bad networking conditions. We want to provide those quality notifications. We want to help them understand what's going on and provide them tips on what they can do about maybe turning off their audio or their video feed or their content feed. Provide those notifications. And that's kind of a manual effort up front, and then graceful degradation happening in the background where we can automatically toggle between those configurations to provide that experience that's totally hands-off. And so the user just conducts their meeting, and they won't even have to do anything, is what our end goal is. But ultimately, we just want to make sure that regardless of the conditions and everything that's happening in the background, they're still able to have a successful and productive meeting experience. So another different flavor of that is network transitions, and this is specifically focused around the mobile experience, but you can imagine being on your home network, being on your Wi-Fi connection, and then jumping over to your cell network as you're jumping in the car. Well, there's typically some delays and some lags that happen in that transition, and we want to smooth that out, right? Because the mobile worker's on the go. They're going to go from Wi-Fi to cell network like that. And so we're working on some enhancements to make sure that that's a super smooth transition for our customers and our mobile workers who are on the go. Continuing to improve our content sharing clarity, and then also in Command Center, we already provide the ability to have quality alerts. So if specific calls fall below thresholds, administrators can be pinged that, hey, proactively go check something out. We think there may be some issues with these endpoints or on this network. But we're going to give our administrators more capabilities to toggle those and configure them to meet their liking. So really just trying to give the tools to our administrators to understand where challenges persist and enable them to resolve those as quickly as possible. So laser focused on performance, and we are committed to delivering just the highest performing video conferencing experience for our customers. 2, around smart meetings. One of the things we didn't talk about in our review earlier was the implementation of transcription within the meeting highlight itself. And so that's going to be coming out here in Q1. And we talked about it during the actual product launch, but now we're getting closer and closer to that GA date. And so transcription is powerful because if you think about capturing that meeting highlight, so you've got the 20 seconds beforehand and the 20 seconds after in terms of that video clip, and you have kind of the crowdsourced commentary, but now bringing the transcription into it so you have the verbatim discussion, so that if you don't have the opportunity to watch the highlights, you're not going to watch the whole recording, you just want to see what maybe someone said in that specific moment, you'll have the verbatim transcription there so that someone who's reviewing the meeting afterwards can really get the context of what happened and can understand what the discussion was about in addition to those comments and the other attributes. So really powerful to add transcription into the Smart Meetings workflow. Additionally, be on the lookout for bringing those highlights, not just to be within the BlueJeans Meetings Hub, but we're working with partners to have integrations so that we can push those highlights and they can show up in other different applications, whether it be Slack or Microsoft Teams or other applications where those highlights can easily be consumed. We also want to make it easier for our customers who are not familiar with clicking the star and the highlight workflow to guide them through the process. So you'll see some new on-screen tutorials to help end users really adopt smart meetings, because once again, we believe it can be transformational, but we need to drive that change management. And finally, within the Smart Meetings bucket, we're improving the recording playback experience. We do believe that as Smart Meetings gains traction, people are going to be spending more time in recordings, and so we want to make that experience as high fidelity as possible, and so you'll see some improvements there as well. And then finally, kind of the big bucket for Q1 is around trust and security, enterprise grade. We'll be introducing our Microsoft Intune integration. That should be wrapped up, I think, at the end of this week, and we'll be joining the Intune App Store. We've recently announced our compatibility with Microsoft Edge from a WebRTC standpoint. And so for those of you familiar with Edge, it's got a bunch of great security and privacy features. And so now BlueJeans Meetings supports Edge natively with WebRTC. One of the really cool features that we announced as part of our Verizon Samsung BlueJeans press release was the new privacy mode that we're able to drive with Samsung S10 mobile devices and on the Verizon 5G network. So we'll be introducing that later this month as well. Closed captioning from an accessibility standpoint, so we're able to take advantage of the work we've done around transcription and provide that for users that need to have closed captioning. Restricted meetings is another great security feature to prevent attendees who are not invited to your meeting from attending them, so bringing two-factor authentication into the meeting experience. And then improving delegate scheduling for Mac and some other calendaring tools where we currently didn't have those features, so enabling people to schedule meetings on their behalf. So once again, a lot of really rich features that we're focused on for this quarter and a really exciting roadmap looking forward. But I wanted to take a moment and celebrate everything that we've accomplished in 2019 and just give that little sneak peek of where we're headed over the next couple of months. So I know that was a ton of content. I really appreciate everyone hanging in there with me. We do have a couple minutes for questions, and so I'm happy to answer any questions and see if you guys have any other feedback. Thank you so much for your participation.
Hi, Zach. That was great. So we did get quite a few questions, and just to let everyone know, if we don't reach your questions, we will answer them and send them out as a follow-up. So let's start. They would love to know if there are enhancing the alerts in Command Center. For example, if you get an alert when a BlueJeans room is disconnected.
Yeah, that is something that we currently have a couple different feature requests in for on the roadmap. So alerting is definitely, I don't have the specific details, but I do know that we are going to be making enhancements to those alerts specific to room health. So be on the lookout for those because I did see some things on the roadmap around those capabilities.
Awesome. Okay, and then somebody was asking about video sharing via the screen share. So currently, if they have a video in their PowerPoint presentation, the audio is not coming through. Is that a capability that the meetings platform will have soon?
Yeah, so one of the things, if you're going to be sharing video on the fly like that, what you need to do, you'll see in your screen share at the bottom, there's a little checkbox which says share audio through BlueJeans. And you're going to want to check that box. It's going to download an audio driver that we need to extract that sound and push it through the meeting experience. So what I recommend is try to do it again, but look at kind of your BlueJeans Meetings app when you're sharing content and look for that little checkbox at the bottom of the screen. Once you check that, the audio should play through your screen share.
Great. Gary asked, is 1080p video on the roadmap for the coming year? And how will recording more than just the participant screen?
1080p, yes. Recording more than the participant screen. I believe those recording enhancements are also in there as well to record. I don't want to get outside of my depth on that one. I know that, I don't know. We'll have to follow up on that one, actually.
Perfect. I will make a note. And then how does screen sharing handle during low bandwidth?
Yeah, so actually that's one of the roadmap items for Q1 is improving the clarity of screen sharing during the low bandwidth scenarios. And so it depends. Right? In my personal experience, I use BlueJeans 8 times a day. It really just depends. But we are making enhancements to smooth that out, even in low bandwidth scenarios. So I think you'll start, it depends on the situation today, but I think you'll see over the next 3 months that even some of those choppier screen sharing moments or kind of the blurred screen, that'll start to fade away as we implement some of the new back-end improvements.
And will those back-end improvements help with the screen sharing lag that some people are experiencing?
Yeah. So that's definitely part of it. And it also depends if you're screen sharing through your desktop or you're screen sharing through a room system. But it's designed to pick up the speed on all that. And there's also some enhancements coming later in the year, which will dramatically improve the speed of those transitions.
Great. And then when will people be able to see a video that has more than 9 people at a time in a meeting?
Very related to my previous point. So second half of the year, we will be I'd be on the lookout for improving the number of boxes of meeting participants.
Great. And will BlueJeans continue to support legacy room systems from Polycom and Cisco, even though some of these systems aren't being supported by the manufacturers?
100%. We are committed to interoperability of every system.
Great. And then will there be manual control of auto audio gain structure? They have a lot of audio issues when adding microphones in large group situations.
I think we should follow up with that question.
Okay. And then this will be our last one, and we'll answer the rest of them and send those out to you guys. But during the survey that you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, what was the average guesstimate based on the 50 million meetings that you had in 2019 of how many participants were in each meeting?
Oh, interesting. We looked at that previously, and it was in between 3 and 4. But I'm going to look at that again.
Some good questions. All right. Well,
yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll answer the rest of these questions and send them out to you along with a recording of this video. Thank you so much.